here at the house, I have cucumbers, chard, basil, and my one patch of Salanova lettuce is popping up. So I just moved this third patch of germinating lettuce out here with the other starts. This is the second patch of Salanova lettuce. There's a few chards popping up here and there. So I'm going to take these guys out to the greenhouse too. That's why I need to not leave buckets of water out, because maybe they just want to take a bath, right? And then they can't get out. So, oh my goodness, he loves it. Oh boy. I'm not seeing very many birds on my seaweed pile. There's one little guy, I don't know what he is. And then other than that, I'm seeing robins. Just a few robins hanging out. There's one right there and one right there. I don't know if it's safe yet to uncover anything. The flat of chard joins everybody else here on the greenhouse tables. And I pulled off this drip irrigation that exploded a couple weeks ago, and pulled the drip that I had hanging up here, which is newer, threw that on the lettuce. And I've got the drip running now on all 4 beds in the greenhouses. This is my chard, which is growing really slowly. And my orach, which is doing nicely. Here in the other greenhouse, the bok choy is really taking off. So nice. And I've got just tons of volunteer orach in here. And in this bed, I've got my kale, which is coming along all right, and just like explosions of volunteer orach, what I should probably pick today and put in a salad. Picking my first greens from the greenhouses. Can you see my haul? My orach haul. 8 ounces. So all that I have left up here at the house are basil and cucumbers waiting to germinate. And over here under lights, I've had my basil all winter. They started to kind of bolt to seed. I just let them go, hoping that maybe I could get some seed. But I'm gonna need to clear this out, because once the basil and cucumbers do germinate, I need to get them under lights here. Okay, so I've got the basil, doop, 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 out here, because I think that it might need a little bit longer for the seed to mature. I got everything kind of tidied up. I've got to get this hose kind of run underneath here so the doors can get closed, where it attaches here on the bed ends. And I need to fix my goofy Velcro door and probably replace the screen, which has holes and stuff like that. Yeah, everything's kind of tidied up. Okie doke, folks. I'm gonna be headed out for about a week and a half to go down to Oregon to help family with the very last chemo treatment. And so Tyler's gonna be babysitting, which is why I'm kind of trying to get things a little bit set up here. Yes, so I'm gonna go ahead and dig in these hoses, fix the little things. And before I do that though, I think I'm gonna go ahead and pull the hoops off the garlic and put hoops underneath the transplants, the kale and lettuce and collard greens that I put out last week. Okay, so hoops are coming off the garlic and going out to the newly planted beds. Before and after. All of the little starts are looking healthy, so I don't think there's any crane fly larvae in there to nibble away at them. I'm sure they're happy to have these covers lifted up off their heads. I've got my tunnels tunneled, and then I've got some hoses buried here. One going to here, and one buried going to here. La la la. And then we've got two going over here to this greenhouse. One, which is gonna be a slip, trip, and fall hazard probably. And the other one, doop-de-doop-de-doo. Check this out, peeps. Look at that screen. No holes. Okay, and now the door is done. New staples to the Velcro. Alrighty, so I've got a length of 1x2 staple gunned makeshift fashion to bottom of this thing. Not a bad day, dudes. The sun stays out a lot longer. Okay, last but not least, I went ahead and transplanted a few of these little tiny parsleys in between the garlics, just to see if the birds notice them and eat them. Oakley dokley folkleys. I'm starting to see the fewest little basil buddies popping up here and there. And I'm seeing a few cucumbers trying to poke their little heads out. I got, you know, the basil plants down in the greenhouse, and this is cleaned out. I realized that I've got the height of these lights set up for potted plants. Like the lowest they will go is not low enough. So I pulled everything out from over here, and I've got two lights. Can you see them? Two lights. And they're about, I don't know, 5 inches or something above the plants. Hopefully that's about right. The parsley survived. Now, is it just because they're so small the birds can't see them? Or are the birds gone? Or do the birds not like parsley? Hard to say. So I'm gonna fiddle with these 3 garlic beds today then. Plant some things. But I'm gonna start out planting in these 2 beds over here. We have a forecast for rain on Friday and Saturday, and I'm hoping that's enough to water everything in that I do today, because then we're gonna get a week of sun and warm weather. So I'm gonna start with this bed of lettuce, which last week I discovered a mistake that I was making. These are 40-foot beds, and the plan was to do weekly successions of 20 feet of Salanova lettuce. So I've already seeded 3 successions. Problem is, I only did 1 tray of 72 each soil blocks for each week, and I need 2 trays. And so instead of doing a 20-foot bed planted last week, I only got a 1/4 bed planted. So the fix is going to be this. I'm going to plant my next weekly succession, which will get me a total of 20 feet. And then I'm going to do this front 20 feet seeded with a Jang in lofty salad mix. Now I've got to do my green onions, which are supposed to be interplanted. Last week I was discovering that as I planted the onions in after the lettuce, it was kind of burying the lettuce. So I'm going to start with planting the green onions down the center first. I'm going to then seed the lofty salad mix around it, and then I'm going to transplant that last half bed with the second succession of Salanova lettuce. So that is the plan. Got the Jang set up. We've got 9 in the rear, 14 in the front, and that gives me 9 in the rear, 14 in the front is 0.5 inch spacing. I'm using the XY24 roller for the lofty salad mix. salad mix, 3.15 ounces before seeding. 3 ounces of lofty salad mix after seeding. Okay, so I got 6 rows in here. 3 on each side of the green onions. And now I'm gonna move back here, grab these 72 soil blocks of Salanova lettuce and plant them in this back 20 feet. And these are my little teeny tiny lettuce. Teeny tiny lettuce with my green onions poking out. And this is what I transplanted last week. And everybody seems to be doing fine. So I'm gonna cover this bed up, and then I'm gonna seed spinach in this bed. Lakeside spinach, 3.7675 ounces before seeding. And I'm using the F24 roller. And 3.23 ounces after seeding. I went with 5 rows of spinach just because I didn't want to try and squeeze towards the edges. I've got some new insect netting that I'm going to cut. I'm going to do the lettuce and stuff in hoops just because I don't want my green onions to be smashed, but I'm just going to go ahead and lay flat the row cover over the top of the spinach bed. Alrighty, insect netting over the lettuce bed and the spinach bed. I've got agrabah on the 3 beds of collard greens and kale. I thought about switching out the agrabah row cover for insect netting on the kale and collard greens since I have a new roll of it, but I don't really want to bother with it. And plus I think it's fine. The agrabah's a little bit warmer and I don't really want that on a warm week, but at the same time, it really just gets the morning light and not so much of the evening light. So it could use a little bit more warmth maybe. And I need those covered definitely because of the root maggot fly. And the bed of lettuce and spinach probably wouldn't need cover, except for that I'm just concerned there might be a few more birds around here that might be scratching around in the bed. So just keeping things covered. I'm hoping to get some baby spinach out of this bed before I'm ready to transplant either leeks or mature chard that are going to go out either in this bed or this bed right here. But next up, I'm going to transplant out some parsley at the base of the garlic. Hi. I went through these 2 beds where last year I had lettuce and I had planted some garlic at the stems to try and ward off the crane fly larvae. And so some of them popped up again. And so in order not to defile my perfect variety of garlic, I pulled these suckers out and we will eat them for something. And so I am just planting my parsley in here. And I think that tomorrow I might plant my just barely sprouting cucumbers in the greenhouse to be kind of, so they don't have to be babysat, since next week is supposed to be super, well, it's not super, but it'll be warm in the greenhouse. They'll like it. So hopefully they'll survive that. Okay, folks, I got a whole row of parsley on this side, and then, hello, can you see me? The sun is gone. We're supposed to get a little bit of rain actually starting tomorrow morning. Parsley in the beds. All I have left to plant are cucumbers in the greenhouse tomorrow morning. Drip hole. Pulled out a row of lettuce and planted. Some of these guys are popping their heads up, and pulled out a row of orach and chard, and a lot of these guys haven't even really germinated. So we'll see how they do. Here's my little salad. So next week, with the warmer days and nights, would be perfect for planting out basil and cucumbers into the greenhouses. So I could have started these cucumbers a week earlier than I did, probably. Although I'll be interested to see if they transplant easier when they're little teensy-tiny fellows like this. I was late starting my basil by a few weeks. They would have been probably ready to plant out. But then I would have had to cut all of that bok choy that is in the greenhouse because they would need the whole bed. So anyway, that's a little bit about timing. I pulled the table out of this greenhouse, moved the leeks, chard, and lettuce onto a table out by the compost bins to survive out there because it'll be too hot, I think, next week for them in here. I also got the potatoes pulled out of the refrigerator and stashed out there too, because I'm wanting them to sprout before I plant them when I get the bed ready when I return. So anyway, I think that's it, folks. Yes, I'm just gonna get ready for my trip and I will talk to you guys next week. I don't know what I'll be talking about, but I'll talk to you then.